Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my Pentiment playthrough. Today, returning to Pentiment, where we're having a conversation with Brigitta. In last week's video, we left off having a conversation about potential relationships, partners for Magdalene. And now we're going to continue with the main quest, which is to finish the mural. So let's return to Pentiment. Magdalene. We could say, "Thank you, Brigitta. Be well," or "Noted until later," or what we will say, which is, "Oh, before I forget, I actually had a question about an old book. Martin is supposed to have stolen it from that baron who was killed years ago. Do you know what happened to it?" Brigitta. "Oh, I hope this doesn't get me into any trouble, but I still have it hidden in a drawer. Martin left it behind when he ran off." Magdalene. "Why'd you keep it?" Brigitta. "What was I supposed to do? The Baron was killed soon after, and there I was holding his stolen book. I didn't want Martin to get in any more trouble than he was already in. I never read it, though. I don't read well." Magdalene. You could either say, "Can I have it?" or what I will say, which is, "I could take it off your hands. No one would ever know you kept it." Brigitta. "I trust you to be true to your word, Magda. I'd like to have nothing more to do with it, to be frank. It reminds me of difficult times. A stolen book of a dead nobleman in our home. Perhaps it's spoiled our milk and turned our eggs all these years. Here you are. Please don't tell anyone I had this." Magdalene. "Ah, Historia Tessiae. It's in Latin, which I don't read well. I'll puzzle it over in the evening." "Thank you, Brigitta. You've been a big help." Brigitta. "Of course, Magda. Be well now. God bless." Magdalene. "You too, Brigitta. Until later." Let's talk with Kraft here. So there's Martin. Of course, we know this is actually not really Martin. And his son, Kraft. Very cool. So Martin, who's not really Martin, but is like Jacob Faust or something like that, Provost or something. He now has a son, which is very cool. And yeah, so let's actually talk with Martin if we can, and let's get the measure of Kraft as well. Martin. "Morning, Magdalene. How's Klaus?" Magdalene. "Enduring. Even his speech is slurred when he keeps a cheerful heart. I don't know what life would be like without him." Martin. "Klaus is a good man." Magdalene. "Tassing is a better place thanks to him." "He's one of the few in Tassing who hasn't been on my back all this time." Magdalene. "What do you mean?" Martin. "Don't pretend like you haven't heard the townsfolk have whispered shit about me for years. So what if I occasionally get into a few brawls? I'm an honest man. I wasn't involved with what happened to Otto Zimmerman. I supported his cause. I've pulled my weight around here, tilled the soil, salted the meats, provided for Brigitta and Kraft. Don't even get me started on Agnes." Magdalene. "What about Agnes?" Martin. "Always nagging at me, saying I'm a disappointment compared to Lucky. I wasn't even here when he died." We could either say, Magdalene, we could either say, "Maybe that's the issue. You weren't here when you were needed," or we'll say nothing. Martin. "Agnes is a bitter crone who should leave me be. I've done enough back-breaking work for this family. Can't a man just have a goddamned rest?" Magdalene. "Why are you always getting into fights anyway?" Or, "Brigitta supports you in all this, doesn't she?" Or, "I believe you, Martin. You seem like you could use a respite." Martin. "That's a wife's duty. Take note, Magdalene. We get along, though she often spends more time with Veronica than me." Magdalene. "They've been good friends since childhood, yes?" Or, "Everyone needs a close friend, as I'm fortunate to have in Esther." We'll go with the first one. Martin. "Yeah, good to have friends." Right. I've lost enough time to this as it is. Time for you to go. Until later, Martin. Kraft. Hey, Mags. We could talk with, Judah. Hey, Magdalene. Hetty. Hetty. Hello, Magdalene. How's the mural coming? I hear you browbeat the council into letting you do it yourself. Magdalene. We could say, I don't care about the council. I only want to finish the mural for my dad, or it took some work, but I convinced them to let me paint the Rothus, yes. Or they didn't have a chance against me once I'd set my mind to it. We'll go for the middle ground. Hetty, haha. Well, it's good to see those stubborn bastards can be moved. God may have made man from dust, but I swear, he left some of them with rocks for brains too. Did you know Jorg was by to check on my hinges? I've had about enough of their silly projects. That Zimmerman boy seems to have a good head on his shoulders, though. Once you're settled down with him, you'll have a good life ahead of you. Magdalene. We could say, I do like him. I think we could learn to love each other. Or, I think I'd rather marry for love, Hetty. Or, Ots, I'm not going to marry him. Or, it's hard to think of the future right now with what's happened to my dad. We'll actually go with the I don't want Magdalene to marry Ots. I don't know if I talked about this in a previous video. I want Magdalene to marry Paul because he talks about God. Paul always asks, like, what would Christ do? So I want Magdalene to marry Paul. That's what I'm trying to have happen. Because you saw in the last one, you could also have said, would the Veronica and Brigitte thing. I think you could have said something about Esther in the same way. At least I believe that was what the insinuation was. Because in one of the previous videos, there was something like Veronica and Brigitte are like spend time together or something like that. I don't remember what it was. But my plan is for Magdalene to marry Paul. So that's why I'm going to say, I'm going to be decisive about Ots. Am I going to marry him? Hetty, are you so sure there are better prospects for you in this town? Don't tell me you prefer the gardener boy. We could say two things. We could either say, I'd rather leave Tassing and see what else is out there, or I don't plan on having anyone. Oh my goodness. I'll pick the first one for now. Hetty, show me another town in the Empire with 2 local saints in our fresh alpine air. But you were always going to forge another path, just like your mother. I have no use for the world beyond Tassing, but I wish you luck in it. Magdalene, thanks, Hetty. I'll see you later. Hetty, until then. The reason I say that is because I find Ots to be rude, but I don't know if you can marry Paul. That's actually what I'm going to try, though. Brigitte's son is probably not the worst backup plan, but yeah, that seems like those are good options for Magdalene. I didn't want her to marry Ots, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'd rather end up be alone, but yeah, we'll see. Simon, hey Magdalene. I heard what happened to your dad. How's he doing? Magdalene, resting. He suffered a severe blow to the head. I'm worried, to say the least. Simon, Hans sends his regards. The Bauer household is praying for a swift recovery. Magdalene, even Kraft, or... Thank you, and thank Hans and Jutta as well. Simon, I will. Klaus has always been such a bedrock of Tassing. I'd hate for him to die. It'd be, sorry. Magdalene, it's fine. I fear it as well. It's best not to ignore one's fears, or he's not going to die. I won't allow it. Do you miss your father? Your real one, I mean. Simon, do I miss him? Kind of. I don't remember Joseph at all that much. He's become a haze of sorts, a faint echo, a feeling, an occasional emotion. I was so young when he got killed. Mom said I had trouble understanding what had happened for a long time. Magdalene, I understand. My mom, she's like an empty hole in my life. I have nothing inside of her. Or it's not easy to experience with this type of loss and grief. We'll go with the first one. Simon, yeah. And yeah, you've never even got to see her, right? Not a memory. Not even a memory, huh? Suppose you have yourself for comparison. God molded you after her. I can imagine how she could have been like stubborn and unruly, yeah? Magdalene, we could say, but can I know if I'm actually like my mom? All I have are stories from people. Or, if that is what it takes, I don't see people of wealth and power giving the rest of us much headway. Or, I am not stubborn and unruly. We'll go with the last one. Simon, haha, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to. Anyway, the winter draws closer, so I got a lot of preparations to take care of. I truly hope Klaus recovers soon. God look after you both. Until later, Simon. Hans. Hello, Magdalene. Magdalene. Hello, Hans. Hans. I hope your dad recovers quickly. He's a good man. Magdalene. Dr. Stolz thinks I should prepare myself for the worst. Or, thank you. I'll tell him you said that. Or, I hope so too. Hans. Good. This town has seen too many terrible things, but we've recovered before. Maybe the Lord will return your dad to health, too. Magdalene, I pray you're right. We're glad you have this time with him, I say. Wish I'd had as much with Helwig. Anyway, I should get back to it. Magdalene, until later, Hans. Peter, you have that opportunity now to have that conversation regarding the Tassing's history. Magdalene. Hello, Peter. Can I talk to you for a moment? Peter. Eh? What's that? Magdalene. We could either say, can I talk to you for a moment? Or, I was wondering if you could tell me some of the stories about Tassing. Peter. Oh, the old tales. Cough. It's been so damn long since anyone had a thought to ask me about what I knew. But there's still a few of the old tales knocking about in this skull. Magdalene. We could ask either, are there any myths from even before the Romans came to Tassing, or do you know any Roman legends about Tassing? Since I think the idea that we're going for here is the pagan Tassing becoming Christianized to Christian Tassing, I'm going to ask about the Roman legends about Tassing. Actually, what would we decide? What time period would this be? Let's ask about the first one first, actually. I wonder if we can ask both. Let's ask about the first. Peter, of course there are. The Romans weren't the first to live here, you know. We're looking for something about pagans, so yeah, I think we've got the right one here. There are spirits older than the saints that live in these woods, older than the Romans. They protected Tassing before St. Moritz ever set a blessed foot in town. We could say a few things here. Magdalene. We could say, what sort of spirits? Or, But Father Thomas says that the only good spirit is the Holy Ghost. Everything else is of the devil. Or, I thought spirits only cause trouble spoiling milk, making livestock sick, things like that. We'll say the middle. Ill Peter. Hmm. And if that were true, then Tassing wouldn't have been around for the Romans to take. It's Perkta and her wild hunt that scare them evil ones away. They've protected Tassing since its founding day. Long before those Romans, our ancestors roamed these mountains under a great chieftain called Rhaetus. Now, folk weren't as kind as they are now, and the tribes fought one another for the best land. The old chieftain was a yellow-bellied coward who neglected the old gods. He was too proud to make offerings. Because of him, the gods favored other tribes, and Rhaetus's people had no land to call their own. Instead, they wandered through these mountains and valleys, hunting and gathering what they could to survive. Cough. One day, when winter was approaching, Rhaetus went hunting and found a wounded wolf tangled in a trap. But instead of killing the beast, as most men would, he helped the beast and loosed it from its bounds. Magdalene. We could say, was the wolf a spirit in disguise? Or, why would he do that? Wolves kill livestock. Carl told me 2 of his sheep were killed by wolves last month. Or, sounds like Rhaetus was a bad chieftain too. Even I know it's foolhardy to let a wolf loose when you're hunting. We'll pick the first one. Ill Peter. Heh, of course not. Wolves are wolves, girl. Spirits don't need the skins of animals for their power. Still, you've got the sense of the thing. The old gods are keen to repay favors done, and Perkta is the goddess of the wild hunt. The wolves are her animals. She leads the wild hunt, and the wolves lead the hunts of the forest. Back in my day, folk knew it was bad luck to kill a wolf. I'm the only one who remembers these things. Cough, cough. Perkta saw Rhaetus's action and took favor on him, and told the wolf to lead the chief to her sacred spring. Rhaetus led his people to the spring and claimed it for the homeland, and we've been in this valley ever since. Then those goddamned Romans came and destroyed everything. But you see, there were other gods protecting this place before St. Moritz. It's why a few of us still honor Perkta. She protects us against witches and fiends. We could say, Magdalene, it's a wonderful story, perfect for the first part of the mural. Or, but God protects us from spirits and devils now. We don't need Perkta. Our salvation is in Christ. Or, that's all superstition. All this just sounds like a story to children. We'll go again with the middle. Ill Peter. Maybe so, but before Christ intervened, the old gods and spirits had more power. You couldn't just light a candle and say a prayer to old Perkta, hey? And some of us think it's best not to anger her again, no matter what that daft priest thinks. Magdalene, right. What about the Romans? Do you know any Roman legends of Tassing? Ill Peter, Roman legends? Bah. I don't bother with stories from outsiders or tales of gods that aren't our own. The Romans did nothing but conquer our people and destroy this town. We've spent generation after generation building Tassing back up from those days. And still, our traditions keep dying with no one to carry them on. Magdalene. We could say, I'm asking about them right now. Or, that's why I want to know, Peter. These stories need to be on the mural. Il Peter, Well, I don't know shit about the Romans anyway. Wow, that was actually pretty funny because like after that long-winded dialogue about Perkta and the pagan spirits and stuff like that, then like the question about the Romans and like I think that's after Christianity comes, just no answer at all. That's funny. Big York. Big York. Ah, Magdalene. How are things? Oh, excuse me. How are the hinges on your doors? Big Magdalene. Fine, I guess. Or, excuse me. We'll go with the second one. Big York. The door hinges at home. Are they in good working order? Magdalene. To be honest, I've never really checked. I'm more worried about taking care of the press than looking at door hinges. Or, well, are doors still open? So I expect they are. We'll go with the first one. Big York. Right, right. Maybe Andrew should take a look at them. I would have asked your father, but, well, anyway, you wouldn't believe how many people in this town leave their hinges to rust. Magdalene, is that something the council is worried about? Or, I didn't realize you had such an interest in hinges. We'll go with the first one. Big York. Well, Dad always taught me to keep the house in good repair if we can afford it. And now Paul would like to institute a yearly check of all homes in Tassing. Magdalene, what do you think of the idea, York? Or, it does seem a bit nosy to me. Why not just let folks take care of themselves? We'll go with the first one. Big York. Well, it's not a bad thing, but I don't see why we need to make it official. Everyone in Tassing helps each other, as I see it. If someone notices a house in disrepair, we all pitch in to fix it. To do anything else would be unchristian. But if Paul wants to see it through, I'm happy to go along with it. Makes me feel useful, you know. Speaking of, I'd better get back to work. Nice to chat with you, Magda. Magdalene, see you later, York. We'll talk with Veronica. Veronica, hello, Magdalene. How is the mural going? I hope my husband hasn't been bothering you about it too much. Magdalene, we could say, is that a concern, or... No, the council has left me to work for the most part. I think Otts has something to do with that. Or has he said anything to you about it? Veronica, ha. The council likes to meddle in things they ought to leave alone. My husband less so than some, but those men are all bad influences on each other. Now they're chattering on about a yearly check of the hinges on every door in town. Hinges? Who gives a damn if the hinges on our front door creaks? Magdalene, we could say, they're just trying to keep the town in order, or the council are just old men looking to feel important. Veronica, they do better at keeping themselves in order first, especially Werner. Anyway, I think it's good of you to be working on the mural. I wish Artemis and Apollo would take interest in something like that. Speaking of, have you seen them around anywhere? I asked them to look after the chickens, but they've disappeared. Magdalene, I haven't seen them recently, but they like to mess around in the forest. Maybe they wandered off there. Veronica, ugh, this town isn't that big. I don't know where they get to that I can't find them. Father Thomas says they're only so much trouble because I named them after Greek gods. He says those names have power, but I still like them. Besides, Apollo and Artemis were goddess of virtues. If anything, they should be more well behaved. Magdalene. We could say, names do have power, though. Maybe the spirits of the gods are affecting the twins, or I don't think anything will stop the twins from going their own way in life. We'll say the second one, excuse me. Veronica. Haha, you're right. Father Thomas spends too much time in his books. Anyway, I'd better go find those rascals. Good luck on the mural, Magdalene. Magdalene. Thanks, Veronica. Until later. And that's where I'll go ahead and end the video there for this week. And so, with that, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.